Hey everybody, and welcome to the rules portion of my Idoneth Deepkin review. I got an early access copy to the latest Battletome for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and this is the part where we get to go through and take a look at all the rules. So this is going to be just a sort of, I guess, rundown, play-by-play of what's in the book. There are a grand total of... it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 units composed of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 boxes. So 11 separate kits, whether they're box sets or they are blister packs. So it's a fairly varied list. A couple of the boxes make two things. So the Akhellian, Isharan Guard, and Morsar Guard are a single box. It's the, I call them Reaver Jetfish. The Reaver Jetfish are a single box set that makes two things. And then the Eidolon of Mathland, which is the big giant avatar guy, and the wizard or the fighter is also a single two version kit. And then finally we have a special character, which is Volturnus, the High King of the Deep, and also the Akhellian King is a double kit. Then you have a pile of blisters, so Clamshells, Isharan, Tidecaster, Soul Render, Soul Scryer, and Lotan, the Warden of the Soul Ledgers, which is the, I think that's the dude, the octopus, the octopus rider guy. Those are all individual packs, and then you've got your big giant Leviathan, the Akhellian Leviathan, which is the big sea turtle, and then you have your big Shark Man, which is the, what's it called? The Akhellian Alapex. That's the big shark, the Venom, if you will, the Venom space shark. Those are all individual kits too. So it's a fairly robust Battletome as far as number of units available, considering it's a from scratch Battletome. Like none of these units have existed coming right at the beginning. So I'm gonna divide this into sections. We'll do all your allegiance abilities, which means battle traits, command traits, Allure of the Deeps, and the Isharan rituals, which is your priest stuff. The artifacts power, and the Ethersea, which is going to give you a bonus piece of terrain. So this is one of those armies, much like the Sylvaneth, where you are going to go out and buy a piece of terrain because you get one for free every game, and it gives you a bunch of benefits. And then, of course, we go through all the extra stuff like your name characters, your battle plans, Path to Glory stuff, War Scroll battalions, and your War Scrolls, and that'll take us through. All right, so let's dive into allegiance abilities, starting with battle traits. Now, there are two battle traits that apply to all the models with Idoneth Deepkin allegiance, basically, that have that allegiance, so not necessarily your allies. One is a scaling ability called Tides of Death. It's not unlike the Witch Elves or the Daughters of Cain abilities, because it's based on battle round. This one repeats, though. So in the first battle round, you have Low Tide. In this battle round, all units with Tides of Death battle trait are treated as being cover. So everyone just gets free cover in the first round. Flood Tide, in this battle round, all units with Tides of Death battle trait can either shoot or charge after they run, but not both. Huge. High Tide, number 3. In this battle round, units with the Tides of Death battle trait fight before any other unit in the combat phase. Fight with all eligible Idoneth Deepkin units one after another, and then resolve any fights with any other units. That's huge. Not just your chargers, it's just in the third battle round, everybody that you have fights first. That has the Tides of Death special rule. And then Ebb Tide, in this battle round, all units with Tides of Death battle trait can either retreat, shoot, or charge in the same turn. So you can run away and then shoot and charge. And then finally, fifth one, it's the same as Low Tide. So you've got cover again in the last turn. So the idea is these rules represent you invading, going really fast, having a frenzy of violence, and then moving back and running away afterwards. And that sounds really cool, and it is really cool. What's even cooler, though, is Forgotten Nightmares. This might be the most powerful battle trait in the game because it changes Age of Sigmar drastically. Everything with the Idoneth Deepkin allegiance in your army gets this battle trait. And that is, missile weapons can only be used to target an Idoneth Deepkin unit with this battle trait if it's the closest visible enemy unit. That means that your opponent can only shoot you with missile weapons if you are the closest visible enemy unit. Let that sink in for a second. That's bananas. You can't shoot out characters that are hiding behind units because they're all going to have that trait. You can't snipe out big monstery guys if you surround them by a screen of dudes. This is a crazy ability. And your battle line's not cheap. I think your cheapest battle line is 140 points, but that right there is a game-changing positioning one where you just mob your guys with you mob your support pieces with your battle line units and all of your fodder. You just you can't shoot them. And you can even use allied in fodder. So if you wanted to bring big units of fodder, it's still still they're not the closest enemy unit. You can hide behind that. So you can hide behind things that don't have the trait with things that do have the trait and allow it to soak up tons and tons of damage. So battle traits, that's maybe the most powerful battle trait I think I've seen in Warhammer Age of Sigmar, because it allows you to actually screen all of your support characters, which previously in almost every other army are fair game to pull out with shooting weapons. Now, it doesn't protect you from magic, so you are still going to get blasted by things like arcane bolts and the mortal wound generation that happens with wizards, but not every army has that. A lot of armies rely on shooting. For instance, the Stormcast Eternals really rely on using their shooting to take out enemy characters, and you just can't do that against this army, which is bananas. Then you have your command traits, as per normal. There is 6 of them. Merciless Raider, these can go in your general. Reroll run and charge rolls for the general. Hunter of Souls, reroll wound rolls of 1. Unstoppable Fury, add 2 to the attacks characteristic of any weapons used by this general during the High Tide round. So that's the 3rd battle round. You'll have the ability to get 2 extra attacks. Born Again from Agony, increases general's wound characteristic by 2. That's pretty cool considering you can screen them so well. And then you've got Nightmare Legacy, subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units that are within 12 of the general. And Lord of the Storm and Sea, add 2 to the bravery characteristic of Idoneth Deepkin units that are wholly within 12 of this general. So there's some kind of averagey ones in there. The +2 wounds is pretty huge, especially if you put on one of the big guys like the Eidolon of Malthan and you have him be your general. Unstoppable Fury is good, but it's only good for 1 round. I think the 2 winners in here are probably Hunter of Souls, reroll 1s to wound, and the +2 wounds. The other ones, not necessarily. They're a bit more situational and clutch, especially the one where you get +2 attacks for all your weapons during 1 round of the game. Then you got your Artifacts Power. So let's talk about Artifacts Power. There are 6 as per usual. There is the Sanguine Pearl. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound. Just 5+ shrug. So you can just take an Artifact Power that gives you disgustingly resilient, which is crazy. Potion of Hateful Frenzy. Once per battle in your hero phase, the bearer can drink from this potion. If they do so, add +1 to hit and wound rolls until your next hero phase. However, at the start of your next hero phase, take a mortal wound. Useful. Again, it's only 1 turn in the game. You take a wound from it. Then you got Ankasha Spur. Add 3 inches to the bearer's move characteristic. In addition, reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by their mount. Now, that means that your Akhellian Kings and also Volturnus, actually Volturnus couldn't have this because he's a special character, but your Akhellian Kings get +1 to hit, reroll attack rolls of 1, which isn't bad. It's kind of neat. You don't have any really big crazy mounts though for most of the heroes because this can only be given to a leader, and so it's really just the Akhellian King that can have this, and his mount's okay, but it's not like Dracoth. The Armor of Scythe, subtract 1 from hit rolls for melee weapons to target this bearer. That's a great ability. Bioshock Shell, Bioshock. It's a video game reference. Once per battle, at the start of the combat phase, you can say the bearer will use the Bioshock Shell. If you do so, each enemy unit within 3 takes D3 mortal wounds. So it's a bomb. That could be incredibly useful late game for just blowing up small characters who've already taken some wounds. And then Abyssal Blade, pick a weapon carried by the bearer to be the Abyssal Blade. Improve its rend by 1. In addition, add 1 to the damage characteristic of that weapon if it targets someone with the Slanesh keyword. So, again, clutch, but it's nice for -1 rend. From the artifact list, I'd say the Sanguine Pearl is the obvious winner. 5+ shrug of all wounds. You can give that to an Eidolon of Malthan because he's not a unique character at all. He's just a regular hero. So if you combine that with the +2 wounds, all of a sudden your Eidolon of Malthan, do some spoilers here, he's got 14 wounds and a 5+ shrug and a 3+ armor save. That's obnoxious. The other ones, I think maybe second place is probably the Bioshock Shell. Just being able to blow up and cause some mortal wounds is pretty cool. If you're taking Warscroll Battalion, you're looking for a second one, it's probably the one I'd take. Other than that, they tend to be fairly clutch. The odd move is cool, but I think you're already super fast with most of your mounts. Just to give you some spoilers, as to the Warscrolls, the Akhellian King's move is already 14 inches. Upping it to 17 is... he's the only mounted character there is too, so like, that's all you're giving it to, because he's the only guy who's on a mount. Then we have our Idoneth artifacts. So these are the Akhellian artifacts. These are the ones you can give to the Akhellian people. The Idoneth artifacts can be given to Idoneth Deepkin heroes. Now this is all keyword based. You do have two bands of artifacts here. I think I forgot to mention that at the beginning. So those are all the Akhellian ones that can be given to like the Akhellian King, anyone with the Akhellian keyword, which would I think include the Eidolon of Malthan. Let me just double check. So I should actually check that to see if he can be given that one. And I assume he is Akhellian because No, he's not. So you can't give him the 5+ shrug. He's got the Idoneth Deepkin tag. So he can get the generic ones. The Akhellian is going to be like your Akhellian king. Actually, I think he might be the only one apart from the wizards. They are Isharan. So no, it's just literally that's 6. Those are all 6 just for the Akhellian king. There you go. The Sanguine Pearl it is. That's the winner. Give your 7 wound Akhellian king a 5+ shrug. You don't really need to make him a lot faster. So now these ones are available to the Eidolon and are available to pretty much everybody, because everybody gets Idoneth Deepkin as a keyword. Akhellian is just in the Akhellian kings. These are the ones who are like the ones born with souls. They're all fancy. So yes, Idoneth Deepkin is a keyword for the Eidolons, and then as well as the Isharan guys. So anybody can have this second list of artifacts. There's the Rune of the Surging Tide. Once per battle at the start of your hero phase, you can say that the bearer will use the Rune of the Surging Tide. If you do so, say whether the rune will be used to create a stream or a ripple. If a stream is created, add 1 to the move characteristic of friendly Idoneth Deepkin units in your next hero phase, or say until your next hero phase. And if a rip tab is created, subtract -1 from every enemy unit's movement until the next hero phase. So that's kind of neat. You speed up and slow down, and you can choose once per battle if you want to do that. Black Pearl is the second one. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to the bearer. The 6+ is negated. So there you go. You can take the not the Sanguine Pearl, but the Black Pearl. That one can go on your Eidolon and Mathland. So you can give the battle trait, which gives him +2 wounds still. So you can have 14 wounds. You can have a 6+ shrug, not a 5+ shrug. It's the noble blood, I guess, that gives the 5+ shrug. You got Leandra's Last Lament. Once per battle at the start of the battle shock phase, you can say that the bear will release Leandra's Last Lament. If you do so, friendly Idoneth Deepkin units wholly within 18 of the bear don't have to take battle shock tests for that phase. So kind of a Lord of the Host for once per game. Terranite Venom. Pick a weapon carried by the bearer to be coated with Terranite Venom. Reroll wounds of 1 for that weapon. In addition, subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of anyone that takes wounds for the rest of the battle. So anytime you're rerolling, that can be great. So I honestly, Terranite Venom is not a terrible artifact if you have a secondary artifact on somebody. Again, I think if you're taking an Eidolon though, you probably want to give it the 6+ shrug. Cloud of Midnight. Once per battle at the start of any phase, the bearer can release the Cloud of Midnight. If you do so, they can't be chosen as targets for attacks, spells, or abilities for the rest of the phase, but cannot themselves use attacks or spell abilities for the rest of that phase. So you could just stay alive with the Cloud of Midnight. You have your ink, I guess you octopus ink out, and then you can't fight, but they can't fight too. Again, maybe as a secondary artifact for like a wizard or something like that needs to stay alive, but just the fact that you have that single battle trait that makes you unable to be targeted by missile weapons from far away, you just position guys correctly and you're going to be fine. And then the Whirl Shell. Once per battle at the start of your hero phase, you can say the bearer will use the Whirl Shell. If you do so, pick an enemy hero within 9 inches of the bearer that's visible to them and roll 2d6. If you roll greater from the enemy hero's bravery characteristic, if you roll greater than their bravery characteristic, subtract 1 from hit rolls for that enemy hero for the rest of the battle. So you basically curse a guy. That would be nice if you could combine it with the Terranite Venom. I guess you could also combine it with Nightmare Legacy as a command trait, subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units within 12 of them. But again, still, most enemy heroes are going to be really high bravery. It's going to be hard to get over a lot of the bravery characteristics out there. It's like Undead are all 10. So like getting over like Nagash's bravery is gonna be pretty hard. Some of the lower bravery ones like Skaven and Oryx and stuff, you might be able to get away with it. I think again, the 6+ shrug for wounds and mortal wounds is probably the winner there, and the rest of them are kind of like secondary artifacts. Then you have your Isharan artifacts. These are all the wizards. Have the Isharan, probably Isharan. Again, we're in that realm of like I'm having to figure out what the pronunciation for made up words is. So I think Isharan is probably what it is, but it might be Isharan as well. But that's all your wizards. So all the guys of those keywords are the Tidecaster, the Soul Scryer, and the Soul Render. And then of course there's Lotan, the special character, but he won't have that because he's a special character. You can give him any of these. So you have the Steel Shell Pearl. Apparently everybody gets a pearl. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to the bearer caused by a missile weapon, and on a 5+ it's ignored. That's really cool if it wasn't for the fact that you could already hide your guys. So it's not like you're going to be taking a wound every single turn because you can hide them now behind being not the closest visible enemy unit. Mind Flare. Once per battle at the start of your combat phase, pick an enemy unit within 3 inches of the bearer. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for that unit until the end of the combat phase. Again, if it wasn't once per battle, if it was just once per battle round, or even once per turn, or yeah, I don't know. A lot of this stuff is limited to once per battle, and it's making me look at other ones that aren't and think just that are better off the plate. Dritch Leech, subtract 1 from the casting rolls of wizards while they're within 18 of the bear. And Idoneth Deepkin wizards are not affected by this artifact, but it would affect allied wizards, so bear that in mind if you were taking any kind of allies, because there's a good reason to later on. We talk about some of the Enclaves, and there's even some Warscroll battalions that encourage that. They would be affected by this artifact too. The Auric Lantern, at the start of the shooting phase, pick an enemy unit within 18 inches of the bear that's in cover, and until the next shooting phase, they get no benefit for being in cover, which is nice. You just shine a lantern on, there you are. And the Disharmony Stones, once per battle at the start of your hero phase, pick up to 2 enemy heroes within 12 of the bear. The opposing player must then choose one of the following options. Roll dice for each hero picked, and on a 3+, that hero suffers a mortal wound. Roll dice for each hero picked. On a 5+, that hero suffers D3 mortal wounds. Or each hero suffers D3 mortal wounds and then roll a dice. And on a 4+, you take D3 mortal wounds. So it's a... you have to be in the middle of a scrum of heroes for this to really be worthwhile. It's only once per battle, and it might bounce back on you if you do it automatically. So kind of a clutch item. You have Brain Barnacles. This is the last one for the Isharan artifacts. Once per battle at the start of your hero phase, pick an enemy hero within 12 of the bear and roll 2d6. If the roll is equal or greater to the distance between the bear and that hero, the hero is infected. Subtract 1 from hit rolls and casting rolls for that infected hero for the rest of the battle. That's a good one. That's really cool. Because typically, if you're going to be giving this to an Isharan, he's going to be a wizard. Someone's going to try and hunt him down, and you can curse that somebody. As long as they get within, I guess, you know, under 5 or 6 inches, so that you're able to just make sure that you hot dice that with a 2d6 roll. They're just automatically infected, and they're -1 to hit rolls and cast rolls for the rest of the battle. Could be anybody. You could do it to Nagash. You could do it to anybody, and they'll just, it's just based on how far away they are from you. They get the Brain Barnacles, and they start to go crazy. That is 100% the best one, I think, in this list of artifacts, Brain Barnacles. And it'll be the one, it's the new Mind Shackle Scarabs for this game. People are going to complain and hate about it forever. there's no defense against it. It's not like it's a spell or something like that. Arcane artifacts, the Idoneth Deepkin hero that's also a wizard can be given this. So again, this can be given to your Isharan artifacts. You give this to Eidolon of the aspect of the sea, who's a wizard. There's the Arcane Pearl. Roll dice each time you allocate a mortal wound to the bearer. On a 5+, wounds negated. So it doesn't work against all wounds. This is just against mortal wounds. The Sands of Infinity. You can use the Sands of Infinity once per battle. Before making a casting roll for the bearer for a spell whose effects would normally last until your next hero phase, if you do so, the spell is successfully cast and do not unbound. Then the spell lasts until your hero phase after your next hero phase instead. So you can double round something. That's pretty cool. So Sands of Infinity is basically going to allow you to, if you want to Mystic Shield somebody, have it last for 2 turns. And that's really neat, because that means you could actually get 2 Mystic Shields off, because even though you're casting it once per turn, one could have a secondary turn of effect, and then you get a second one on the table. So Sands of Infinity looks like it'd be pretty useful. If you want to have 2 things Mystic Shield in 1 turn, that actually looks really handy. So think about that now. You're going to start the first turn in cover automatically because of low tide. And then you're going to be able to Mystic Shield a unit, and then you could potentially have 2 units Mystic Shielded on turn 2. So you're starting off the turn with something, everything having +1 save, and potentially something having +2. So your big fighting unit or whatever. And then being able to have two units not out of cover, but with Mystic Shield on them at start of turn 2. That, if you're going to make big blobby units of murdering, then that's a super handy combo. The Coral Ring, once per battle, you can reroll a failed casting roll for the bearer. In addition, once per battle, you can reroll a failed unbinding roll for the bearer. So, yeah, kind of clutch, but it's like a Dispel Scroll. I think the Sands of Infinity is probably better. It's automatic. Bauble of Buoyancy, you can fly. In addition, double the result of run rolls for the bearer. Handy. You can already fly with your Eidolon and Mathman, though, so that one doesn't make a lot of sense for him. Maybe for the little guys who are trying to get away. But again, because you've got the Nightmares battle trait that's keeping people from shooting you, you're pretty zippy. You're not going to be running. Kraken Tooth, once per battle in your shooting phase, pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of the bear that's visible to them, and then roll a dice and look up the result. On a 1, none binds the Kraken. The bear takes D3 mortal wounds. On a 2 to 5, the Kraken's released. The enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So on a 1, the Kraken gets mad and hurts you. On a 2 to 5, the Kraken gets mad and hurts them. And on a 6, a tasty morsel. Pick one model in the enemy unit. The model you pick is slain if it has a wounds characteristic of less than 10 and suffers 2d6 mortal wounds if it has more than 10. Oh, that could be really cool. It's basically a free D3 mortal wounds within 12, and if you roll a 6, it could potentially be 2d6 mortal wounds, or just kills that guy if he's got less than 10 wounds. It was pretty good. I still think Sands of Infinity is better for your first one, though. Then Augury Shells. Once your battle at the start of your hero phase, roll 2d6 during your hero phase. You can use that roll as the result of a cast roll for the bearer, or as the result of an unbinding roll for an enemy wizard that is attempting to unbind a spell cast by the bearer. You must say that you will use that roll before the actual cast or unbinding roll is made. Interesting. So once per battle at the start of your hero phase, roll 2d6. And you're basically going to get to choose that result to be the automatic result for something later on during the phase. So I can have it be one of my, if it's good, it can be my casting roll. If it's bad, it can be your dispel roll later on. That's neat. It's not super neat, but it's neat. And those are all of our artifacts. So again, you've got your nobility artifacts, your Isharan artifacts, your just generic Deepkin artifacts, and your arcane artifacts for your wizards. Now it's the Lore of the Deeps. These are the spells that you can give to all of the wizards. Any Idoneth Deepkin wizard in an Idoneth Deepkin army knows an additional spell chosen from this lore. There is the Steed of Tides. Steed of Tides has a casting value of 5. If successfully cast, pick a friendly hero that is not a monster and is within 6 inches of the caster and visible to them. Now here's an interesting thing. I don't know if the Eidolon's not a behemoth. It might be a monster. It is not a monster either, so this could actually apply to your Idoneth, or your Eidolon of Battleplan. Remove that model from the battlefield and then set up anywhere within 24 inches and not within 9 of enemy models. And this counts as movement for the movement phase. That's pretty cool. Now you have to long bomb a charge somehow afterwards, but let's say your Eidolon of Battleplan has just killed everything nearby. You can reposition on the battlefield 24 inches away. That's pretty awesome. Abyssal Darkness. Now that also means that you could Steed of Tides. The aspect of the sea could just do it to himself, which is cool because he counts as being a hero that's not a monster, that's within 6 of the caster invisible to them. Yeah, so he'd be able to do it to himself. Abyssal Darkness, casting value 5. If successfully cast until your next hero phase, friendly Idoneth Deepkin units are treated as being in cover while they're within 9 of the caster. That's great. Abyssal Darkness giving free cover to everybody within 9 of the casters. Again, you're going to have screening units in your casters. He'll count as being in his own cover, and you could double this down with Mystic Shield. So pretty great. All of a sudden, you're just putting saves out everywhere. It's only a 5+ to cast too, and it's a bit better than Mystic Shield because one, you can't dispel. You could dispel this. Of course, you can unbuy it like normal. But things that ignore Mystic Shield or get rid of Mystic Shield wouldn't affect this because it's just cover. Now, things that affect cover would affect this. Vorpal Maelstrom. Vorpal Maelstrom has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick a point in the battlefield within 18 of the caster that's visible to them, and roll a dice for each unit within 3. If the dice roll is equal to or less than the number of models in the unit, they take D3 mortal wounds. That's pretty cool for clumped together units of dies. So, I mean, 5 or less guys, it's 1 die, as D3 mortal wounds. So if you can catch a bunch of guys together and touch them all with a 6-inch circle, you'll be able to do a bunch of mortal wounds. That's pretty good for armies that mob up their support staff too. Really feels like this army is really good at taking down support pieces and not having to, it's 18 inches for that too, and not having to deal with the support piece removal themselves. Then we have Pressure of the Deep. Pressure of the Deep has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, pick an enemy model within 12 of the caster that's visible to them, and roll a die. If it's equal or greater than the model's wounds characteristic, it's just slain. Wow. Good for taking on big knights, because it's equal to or greater. Sorry, it's just greater, actually. So any 4 wound knights, 5+ you just kill one, or just pop a Stormcast on a 3+ if you want, or a 4+ if you want to pop Paladin or something like that. That can be super useful, because if you think about it, popping a Paladin with that spell, that's the same as getting a 5/6 on D3 mortal wounds, right? You're just killing a 3 wound guy on a 4+. Tide of Fear. Tide of Fear has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of the caster that's visible to them. Until your next hero phase, subtract 1 from hit rolls for that unit and subtract 1 from that unit's bravery characteristic. That's a cool debuff, Tide of Fear. When you're going to get engaged by the enemy all of a sudden, being able to reduce the rolls to hit is huge. And then Arcane Corrosion. And it's Corrosion, not Corrosion. I'm not really sure why. Arcane Corrosion has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick the closest enemy unit within 40 inches of the caster and measure the distance between them and the caster and the unit. If the distance is up to 12 inches, the target suffers a mortal wound. If the distance is more than 12 and up to 24, they take 2. If the distance is more than 24 up to 36, they take 3. And if the distance is between 36 and 40, they suffer 4 mortal wounds. So the further it goes, the more damage it does, which is interesting considering you're going to have your casters be far away from the enemy anyway, because they can't be targeted by shooting unless they're the closest enemy model. So Very interesting. And then finally, for all of our battle trait stuff, we have the Isharan rituals. And these are the ones that all of the Isharan will know. So Isharan heroes from an Idoneth Deepkin army can perform the following rituals in your hero phase. All of them can do this. And all of your Isharan heroes are your basically your cast of wizard guys. So it will be the Tidecaster, the Soul Scryer, the Soul Render, and also Lotan, the Warden of Souls. He counts as an Isharan hero. So they all have access to these in addition to all the other stuff they do. So anything else they do, they can still do these. In order to perform a ritual, at the start of your hero phase, say which ritual is being performed and then pick the hero from your army that's more than 9 inches from any enemy models and roll 2d6. Add 1 to the roll if the hero is performing the ritual within an inch of a Gloomtide shipwreck, which we'll talk about later when we talk about the Ethersea. And add a further 1 if they're a priest. In addition, add 1 to the roll for each other friendly Isharan hero that's within 3 inches of them performing the ritual. So what you get is you get groups of heroes together. They can perform more powerful rituals. On a 10 plus, the ritual is successfully performed and has the effect below. On any other result, the ritual fails and does nothing. So ritual erosion. Until your next hero phase, enemy units don't receive any benefits from being in cover. Ritual of Rousing. Heal 1 wound allocated to each friendly Eidolon on the battlefield. In addition, you can reroll failed hit rolls and casting rolls for Eidolons until your next hero phase. That's pretty cool. And this doesn't count as your hero phase actions either, so you can just do this and hope to YOLO a 10 plus. You can create the conditions where it gets easier, but if you'd have an Eidolon on the table, getting him to reroll hits or casting rolls is pretty bananas. And then Ritual of the Tempest. Until your next hero phase, enemy models cannot fly. So your Gloomtide Shipwreck is going to be on the battlefield every game, much like Sylvaneth Trees. And the ones of these that are priests are the Soul Scryer. The Soul Scryer will be able to do this as a priest, and that's it. So the Soul Scryer is going to get +2 to this roll if he's nearby to a Gloom Shipwreck or a Gloomtide Shipwreck, and +1 just for being a priest by himself. So he's going to be able to do a ritual on an 8 plus. Then if you have extra heroes nearby, it could be a 7 plus, 6 plus, 5 plus. And it's just 2d6. So that's a super interesting 3 basically choice thing that you can do. The no cover seems clutch. If you have an Eidolon, that seems like the one you're doing every turn. And shutting down fly, it could be really useful against certain armies. It could be completely pointless against others. So they seem like a nice bonus, but nothing to really that changes the game. And then finally we have the Ethersea, and this is your last battle trait. Many of the rules and abilities of the Idoneth Deepkin models represent the disturbing effects of the Ethersea. In addition to these rules, armies of the Idoneth Deepkin allegiance have access to the Etheric Vortex terrain feature they can set up on the battlefield as described below. An Etheric Vortex terrain feature will always have a scenery war scroll. The Gloomtide Shipwreck war scroll on the right is an example of a scenery war scroll for an Etheric Vortex terrain feature. After all the terrain features are set up before players choose territories, you can set up a maximum of 2 Etheric Vortex terrain features anywhere in the battlefield, so long as they're at least 1 inch from other terrain features. And if both players set up an Etheric Vortex, each player rolls a dice, rolling against the again if they tie, and whoever rolls higher can set theirs up first. So the Gloomtide Shipwreck's a new piece, and it actually counts as 2 pieces. A Gloomtide Shipwreck is a terrain feature consisting of 1 shipwreck scenery model. The model is supplied in 2 halves. You can either field the 2 halves as 2 separate terrain features, or place the 2 halves together so they're touching in order to form 1 large one. So you can choose to have a large single one or 2 individual small ones. And because you get 2 from the Ethersea, typically you're just going to buy one of these and break them up into 2. The only real reason to field it is 1 is you get a larger footprint for the aura for each one, but you also might not be able to fit it certain places too. So I see a lot of people buying the 1 Gloomtide Shipwreck and just having it on the table. Its scenery rules are Guardians of the Deep. Roll a dice each time a wound or mortal wound is allocated to an Idoneth Deepkin unit wholly within 6 of it, and a 6 plus is ignored. So you just get terrain that gives you a 6 plus wound shrug, period. That's pretty cool. It's not a huge terrain feature, so you're not going to be able to fit like a whole unit sitting inside of it, but you will be able to add that 6 plus shrug to a lot of stuff, because it looks like it's, I mean, I don't have one, so I'm kind of eyeballing it, but it looks like it's about 5 inches across. So if you take 5 inches and you add 6 inches to that, you got a fairly large aura for 2 terrain pieces to fit units inside of. And then Predators of the Ethersea. At the start of your hero phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of the terrain feature. Sorry, each unit. That's important. You don't roll for Idoneth Deepkin units, but you would roll for allied units that aren't Idoneth Deepkin. On a 4 plus, they suffer a mortal wound, and on a 6, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. So it has the same sort of like chewing on units effect that the trees do in the Sylvaneth army. And then finally, the last battle trait thing is you have the 6 different enclaves that your Idoneth can choose to be from. There's the Einrak, the Domhain, the Futhan, Morfan, Nautilar, and Bryamdar, and they all give you certain advantages. So Yanrek, which is the one that Volturnus, which is the High King, is from, they're the friendly Idoneth Deepkin. They're the ones that help each other and go and take allies to the other mortals. They are strong in magic. Just add +1 to casting and buying rolls for all your wizards. Period. It's pretty good. That's just like a base effect. Special Warscroll Battalion rules, and this will be more, they'll make more sense later on. An Einrek Royal Royal Council can include up to 2 Isharan Tidecasters and 2 Isharan Soul Scryers. So you can get more of those guys in that to gain from the benefits, basically, for being part of the battalion. And then you have to take the following command traits. Remember, you're not going to have access to the command trait that gives you +2 wins if you use this one. Allied units in an Einrak army are treated as having the Tides of Death battle trait and can therefore benefit from the Tides of Death battle table each round. So if I was to have Stormcast in my army, they could just all be in cover on turn 1. They could all run and charge on turn 2, and then they get all the other bonuses that are affecting the Idoneth during the course in the following battle rounds. So that's pretty cool. I mean, you're gonna get 400 points of allies, typically a 2,000 point army. Having them benefit from free cover and stuff, there's gonna be some cool combos. There's gonna be some really cool combos in there. Imagine just a huge unit of paladins that all of a sudden have 3+ saves in the first turn as they chug forward. Potentially 2+ saves, you Mystic Shield them. And then 3+ saves again later on. Then you have Domhain. Savage Fighters in your combat phase, reroll hit rolls of 1 for Domhain Akhellian and Domhain Namarti units that made a charge move in the same turn. So all of your knights, who are the Akhellians, are like the nobles and stuff, and the Namarti, who are your battle line guys, you're like kind of eyeless cave fish dudes. They get to reroll hit rolls of 1. Deep Questors, you can reroll failed wound rolls for Domhain Akhellian units that target a monster. So that means all of your kings, all of your knights, they'll be able to, your Reaver Jet Knight, your Reaver Fish Knights, they'll be able to reroll against monsters. And then Warscroll Battalions, a Domhain Akhellian Corps can include up to 6 units of Akhellian Guard. So more bonuses there. Then we have the Futhan, Revel and Slaughter. You roll hit rolls of 1 for Futhan units that are affected by the Flood Tide ability, so third turn, or third battle round. In addition, when a Futhan unit would be affected by the Ebb Tide ability from the Tides of Death table, they are instead affected by the Flood Tide ability from the same table. Fiercest of Creatures, in the combat phase, we roll wound rolls of 1 for your mounts. It's kind of neat, so all your fishes get to reroll 1s. And then Warscroll Battalion, a Futhan Phalanx can include up to 6 Akhellian Corps. So yeah, there you go. So that's the one where your phalanx is layering battalions into it. It's supposed to be a huge game. It's not really a benefit unless you're playing like a 6,000 point game. Then we have Morfan. Soul Magic Adepts. When a Morfan Isharan Soul Render uses their Lure Light ability, add 3 to the number of models that are returned to bring people back. Warscroll Battalions. The Namarti Corps can include up to 6 Namarti Thralls. So again, you get more units benefiting from the Warscroll. And then Magic. Freezing Mists has a casting value. You get a special spell from your Lord of the Deep. Freezing Mist has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within 12 of the caster that's visible to them. Until your next hero phase, you can only move 1 inch when they pile in, and any abilities that increase its pile in move are ignored. So you freeze people, but you have to take that spell. You don't get to choose one from the Lord of the Deeps. Then we have Nautilar. Their abilities are Consummate Defenders. You reroll failed hit rolls for Nautilar units in the combat phase in which they made a charge move in the same turn. Warscroll Battalion, you can get 2, your Nautilar Akhellian Corps can include up to 2 Akhellian Leviathans. And then Magic, you know this spell instead of your spell from Lord of Deep, which is Protective Barrier. Protective Barrier has a casting value of 4+, successfully cast. Pick a friendly Nautilar unit within 12. The caster that is visible to them until your next hero phase, worsen the rend characteristic of attacks against them by 1. Not bad, especially against certain armies. The Bryamdar is the second last one. Supreme Soul Scryer. Oh, sorry, is the last one. Supreme Soul Scryers. If a Bryamdar Soul Scryer uses their Finder of Ways ability, Finder of Ways ability. Finder. There's so many made up words here. I'm just like stumbling over them. Finder of Ways, which is not a made up word. Up to 3 friendly Bryamdar units can join them instead of only 2. In addition, you can set up the units that join a Bryamdar Soul Scryer wholly within 18 inches of the Soul Scryer instead of within 12. So Soul Scryer's guys can bring people back from the dead, and he gained some benefits from this. Unstoppable Raiders, Bryamdar units that cannot normally fly ignore terrain features when they move as if they could fly. Note that this does not allow them to ignore enemy models when they move. So that's pretty cool. Your foot guys all basically ignore terrain. And then finally, Warscroll Battalions, a Bryamdar Namarti Corps can include up to 6 units of Namarti Readers. And that is all of our battle traits for the Idoneth Deepkin. So now let's jump into the Warscrolls themselves and talk about all the individual units. First up, we're going to start with the big one itself, the Eidolon of Mathland. Now, he is a summoned sort of like monster, which is the racial memory of the god Mathland from the world that was. And he's a pretty good fighter. He's got a move of 12 inches, 12 wounds, 3+ save, and bravery of 10. He also flies. His weapons, if he is the aspect of the storm, which is the fighter, are Futhar, the Spear of Repressed Fury. It's got a 2-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 2s, rend -2 and 2 damage. So he's pretty punchy with a potential output of 8 wounds from that weapon alone. He's got a Cruel Hook, which is a 1-inch range, 4 attacks, 2s and 3s, reversing the to hit and to wound. -1 rend and 1 damage, take him to 8 potential wounds per turn. And then Storm Shoal, which is his fish that basically are like coming out of his cape. It's 2d6 attacks, 3-inch range, 4s and 4s, 1 damage, no rend. So you've got potentially, it's not going to be 24 wounds because you've got a 2d6 roll for your attacks and not very good attacks. But you're looking at probably putting out 8 to 10 wounds with him a turn, which is pretty good at mulching a unit. And depending on the rend characteristic, the save characteristic of the thing you're fighting, could put some damage into other monsters and heavy units too. His special abilities, he has Crashing Upon the Foe. Reroll hit rolls of 1 and add 1 to the damage characteristic of this model's Spear of Repressed Fury if you made a charge during the same turn. So that's really cool because that's going to make him hit on 2+, wound on 2+, rend -2, and be damaged 3. So 12 potential wounds during the turn that he charges. In addition, this model can charge in the same turn that it made a retreat move. Finally, heal D3 wounds allocated to this model after it makes a charge move. That's probably the biggest part of this. If you give him your general and you give him 14 wounds, he's healing D3 wounds every time he charges, and he can charge when he retreats. So 12-inch move, he's not a monster, which means he doesn't have any kind of monster table. He never drops off in stats. He's just going to fly over people and keep fighting. Drenched with Hate, reroll wound rolls of 1 for friendly Deepkin units that are within 9 inches of this model. So he's a good leader, a spearhead for other units. And then Pulled into the Depths, at the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy hero with a wound characteristic of less than 8 that's within 3 of this model, and then subtract -1 from hit rolls for that hero for the rest of that combat phase. You hook him with the Cruel Hook, basically, and he can't fight so well. So the Eidolon of Mathland, pretty simple model, all killer, no filler, has built-in self-healing, and you've already seen with all the artifacts that you have, you can make him crazy powerful. He's going to have a 2+ save in the first turn just from being in cover all the time because of low tide. And if you just tap him with a Mystic Shield for 2 turns after that, he will be a 2+ save almost for all the relevant turns of the game. With built-in healing every time he charges too. Then you have the Eidolon of Mathland, Aspect of the Sea, which is a 10-inch move, so slower, 12 wounds, 3+ save, and a 10 bravery. He also flies. He's got a Blast of Abyssal Energy missile weapon, which is a 15-inch range, D3 attacks, hits on 3s, wounds on 3s, rend -2 damage too. So effectively his spear becomes a gun. And then his melee weapons are a Psi Trident, 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend -2 damage to. Almost identical to the Spear of Repressed Fury, but just slightly worse at wounding and less attacks. A Deep Sea Scepter, which is a 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend -1, damage 1. And then a Storm Shoal, which is exactly the same as the one on his buddy, 2-6 attacks, 4s and 4s, 3-inch range, damage 1, no rend. Now, his abilities are Dormant Energies. You can reroll 1 casting roll for this model in each of your hero phases. If you do not reroll a casting roll, then you get D3 wounds back at the end of your hero phase instead. So his built-in healing is based on not using that reroll to cast, and he just gets them back for free. So it's actually a better healing roll than the Aspect of the Storm one, because you can't charge every single turn. Although, I mean, really you could, because you can fall back and charge. It lets you retreat and charge. So I guess you are always going to get that healing if you want to have it. You're just going to proc things that come off of charges if you do. His is just built in the hero phase. Tranquility of the Abyss, add 3 to the bravery characteristic of friendly Deepkin units that are within 9 inches of this model. So he doesn't add to fighting, he adds to bravery, which is nice. And then magic, he's a wizard and he can cast 2 spells and attempt to unbind 2 spells each turn. He knows Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, Cloying Sea Mists from the Lore of the Deep, and Tsunami of Terror. So Cloying Sea Mists has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick a unit within 12 of this caster and it's visible to them. If the unit's a friendly Idoneth Deepkin unit, you can heal D3 wounds. If it's any other unit, it's D3 mortal wounds. So he's got some built-in healing for somebody else. He could also heal his buddy, the other Eidolon of Mathland. And then Tsunami of Terror has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, pick D6 enemy units within 12 inches of the caster, and it's visible to him. Subtract 1 from the hit rolls made for this unit, and 1 from their bravery characteristic until your next hero phase. There's a big debuff as well. He can cast both each turn. So the Eidolons. Now let's talk about Volturnus, the King of the Deep. He's your High King. He's pretty good as far as special characters go. He's not a very expensive special character. He's under 300 points. He has a 14-inch move, 8 wounds, 3+ save, 8 bravery. He has the Astra Solus, which is his magic sword. 5 attacks, range 1, to hit 3, to wound 3, rend -1, d3 damage. And then Usals, which is his horse pony, his fish pony. Fangs, jaws, and talons. It's a deep mare, that's what they call them. 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3+, 3+, -1 rend, and 1 damage. And then his lashing tail, 2-inch range, 3+, 3+, 3 attacks, and 2 damage with the tail. So again, potentially 15 wounds output from his d3 damage sword, and then another 6, 9 with no rend, or sorry, with 3 of them with rend from his mount. He flies, because all of the fish ponies count as flying. He has the Astra Solus. If a hit roll for this is a 6, its rend is -5 instead of -1, so all the 6s to hit becomes super rending, which is great. The Crest of the High Kings, add 1 to the bravery characteristic of friendly Idoneth Deepkin units that are wholly within 18 inches of this model. Sealeth, the High King's shield. You can roll a dice for this model if it's affected by a spell. If you do so on a 3+, it has no effect. Just goes away. Any other units will be affected as normal though. So even splash things just don't affect them. Like if it's an aura spell or something like that, it just doesn't affect them on 3+. First among Akhellians, reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly Akhellian units within 1 and 18 inches of him. So it doesn't affect your stuff that's not Akhellians. This is just your knights, all your noble guys basically get affected by this. The Akhellian King, Deepmare Horn. He has a magical horn basically when he charges. Roll dice if this enemy unit moves within 1 inch of any enemy units. On a 2+, the nearest enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. So he has like an impact hit basically with this horn. And then his command ability is Supreme Lord of Tides. You can use this command ability if Volturnus is your general, and the High Tide ability from the Tides of Death bill applies during this battle round. So he only gets to use this command ability once per turn. So that's important to realize. He's only going to use this and then making units immune to battle shock basically for the whole game. If you do so, pick 3 friendly Idoneth Deepkin units that are wholly within 18 of him and add 1 to their attack characteristic of melee weapons used by those units until your next hero phase. So it's a cool trait, but it's once per game basically in the 3rd battle round, and the rest of the time he's only going to make units immune to battle shock. Then there's the Akhellian King, which is the generic version of Volturnus. Very similar. He has a bladed polearm, so his stats are almost exactly the same. He has 1 less wound, so he's 14 move, 3+ save, 8 bravery, 7 wounds, and the same kit makes this model. So the kit that comes with Volturnus also makes all your Akhellian Kings, or Akhellian Kings. Yeah, so 1 less wound. His melee weapons are a bladed polearm, 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3+, 3+, rend -2, d3 damage. A greatsword, 1-inch range, and you can choose between these two, with 4 attacks, 3+, 3+, rend -1, d3 damage. So you can have +1 attack, slightly worse rend, or you can have -1 attack, 2-inch range, and better rend. I think the polearm is going to get used more often than the greatsword. You have a falchion, which is an optional weapon on your back. 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3s and 4s, no rend and 1 extra damage. So just 1 damage. And then his Deepmare's jaws and fangs are identical to the ones on Volturnus. So 2-inch range for both, 3 attacks, 3+, 3+, -1 rend, 1 damage for the jaws. And then the tail is 3 attacks, 3+, 3+, and then 2 damage with no rend. He flies just like Volturnus does. He has a Deepmare horn. It's exactly the same as Volturnus's, does impact hits basically. 2+, the unit takes d3 mortal wounds if he comes within 1 inch. And then Akhellian Paragon, which is just like the first among Akhellians, but with a 12-inch range. So he can make Akhellian units wholly within 12 inches of him, reroll 1s to hit, and that includes shooting if they have a gun, which most of them don't. Storm of Blows, at the start of the combat phase, you can say that this model will draw their falchion, make it -1 save, so you only get a 4+ save instead of a 3+, but he gets to use it in the fight phase. If you don't do it, then he keeps his save and uses his shield instead. And then Wave Rider, in the combat phase, this model's bladed polearm has a damage characteristic of 3 if they make a charge move. So flat, again, this is why you take the polearm. 1 less attack, but flat damage 3 if you charge. As I see no reason to ever take the greatsword, I don't think. And then his command ability is Lord of Tides. You use command ability if this model's your general and the High Tide applies. So again, this is only a once per game one basically. It's during High Tide. Pick a friendly Deepkin unit within 12 inches of general and add 1 to their attack. So it's Volturnus' ability, but applies to 1 unit within 12 as opposed to 3 units within 18. So just a not as good ability. I would only, he's only 40 points cheaper than Volturnus is. Just take Volturnus. Unless you're planning on using this guy as your general, just take Volturnus, because he's just better in every way for 40 points. And that's all of the kings. So you've got through all the Eidolons, we've gone through the kings now, and now it's on to the Isharan stuff. So the Isharan Tidecaster, 6-inch move, 5 wounds, 6+ save, bravery 7, pretty standard for a wizard. He has a pelagic staff with a range of 1 inch, 2 attacks, 3+3+, no rend, and D3 damage. And then he has an ability called Spiritual Guardians. He just ignores the first wound allocated to him each turn. And that's turn, not battle round, turn. So twice per battle round, he just ignores the first wound allocated to him. That's crazy, especially considering you can't shoot this guy. The Wide Ethersea is the next ability. If this model is your general in your army, at the start of the first battle round, you can declare that the Tides of Death table will be reversed, which is interesting. If you do so, the Abutide ability is used in the first battle round, so you can retreat and still charge and stuff and run, which would be neat. The High Tide ability is used in the second battle round, so you actually get to turn 3 on turn 2, which is interesting as well, because a lot of abilities proc off High Tide. And then it would be Flood Tide and Low Tide afterwards. So that's kind of neat, because you're basically making the High Tide the second battle round instead of the third one. So if you really want to play aggressively, it's not a bad play. It's not terrible to reverse the turn order here. Then you have his 1 magic spell. He's a wizard, and he can cast and bind 1 per phase. Riptide is a casting value of 7. If you successfully cast this, pick an enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster that's visible to them until your next hero phase. Subtract -1 to hit rolls for that unit. In addition, at the start of your next hero phase, they take D3 mortal wounds. So it's like a delayed mortal wound hit and also -1 to hit, which is pretty good for a 7+ casting value spell. It doesn't apply the damage immediately, but it's pretty neat in that it's a debuff that also later on does damage. Really good at hitting heroes, I'd say. Isharan Soul Scryer, this is the next one. Same exact defensive stats, 6-inch move, 6+ save, 5 wounds, and bravery 7. He has a scryfish soul. He shoots fish at you, because, you know, that's the thing in this army. Range 18 inches, 8 attacks, 5+5+1 damage, just literally shooting fish. It reminds me of, you've seen the Lego Ninjago movie when he's got the shark gun and some dolphins in his hip holster or ankle holster. Melee weapons, Finger Claw. It's 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3s and 4s, 1 damage. And then he's got Finder of the Ways. Instead of setting up this unit on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say it's in the Ethersea. If you do so, when you would set up another friendly Deepkin unit, you can set this up with him. Up to 2 units can join him. So he's a little bit like a Trigon in a Tyranid army. You can have guys go with him. At the end of any of your movement phases, you can set this model wholly within 6 of the edge of the battlefield and more than 9 from the enemy. So he allows you to outflank. Then set up any units joined to this model wholly within 6 inches of the battlefield, wholly within 12 of this model, and more than 9 away. So he lets you do a flanking move with your guys. And it can be the end of any movement phase. It doesn't have to be the second battle round, so you can do this first battle round if you want to. Interesting outflanking abilities. And then Seeker of Souls, at the start of your charge phase, you can pick 1 enemy unit within 24 of this model. It's visible to them. If you do so, you can add 3 to the charge rolls for friendly Idoneth Deepkin units that are within 12 inches of that unit. So here's an interesting thing. He can outflank, and then he gets +3 to charge rolls if they're also within 12. So if there is a unit hugging the corner, he can drop in 2 units next to them, and they can hit it on a 6+ potentially when they charge in. However, the first model to be moved from each unit that receives this modifier must finish the charge move within a ½ inch of that unit, or their charge will fail. So they have to come all the way in to try and get that. And that's a pretty neat ability, because he makes it so that you can flank in. You got to be far away, but if you get the charge phase off, you can pick up a guy within 24 and they get plus to charge him. So even if he's not quite close enough, you can potentially long bomb a charge a lot easier. Then there's the Isharan Soul Render. He has the same, he's a little bit tougher actually. Move 6, 5 wounds, 4+ save, and bravery 8. He's more of a fighty dude. He has a Talon Hook, which is a 2-inch range, 2 attack, 3+3+, run -1, damage 2. And then a Serrated Bill on his Wrecker Dart. Wrecker Dart? I don't know. Range 3 inches, D3 attacks, 3s and 3s, run -1, damage 1. He has a Lure Light. At the end of your Battle Shock phase, pick a Namarti unit wholly within 12 of them and roll a D3. Return a number of slain models to the unit that you picked up to the value of the roll. Add 1 to the D3 for each enemy model that was slain and damaged by that model's Talon Hook in the combat phase previously. If he's in combat, he gets D3 plus the Talon Hook's damage, basically, and guys return to a Namarti unit. Now, the Namarti are your Reavers and your Thralls, who are the ones with bows, and the ones with greatswords, who are going to be your battle line unit. So he's a good accompanier to a battle line unit. And then the Hangman's Knot, at the start of this combat phase, pick an enemy hero that's within 3 inches of this model and roll a dice. Subtract 2 from the dice roll if it's a hero or a monster. On a 4+, you can reroll failed hit rolls for this model, for this model's Talon Hook for the attack phase, that target that enemy hero in the combat phase. So he's good at fighting enemy heroes. He's kind of a challengey guy. Lets you reroll stuff. And the Talon Hook's pretty good because it's potentially 4 damage. You might not kill somebody, but you might put a big chunk of damage into him that turn. And those are our heroes, except for Lotan, the Warden of the Soul Ledgers. He's moved 6 inch, 6+ saves, bravery 7, wounds 5. And he's got a bone quill. It's those little pennies writing down. 1 inch range, 1 attack, 3+, 5+, 1 damage. The Octar's Cudgel, because I like that the octopus actually is a club. Like, it's so silly looking, but it's appropriate. 3 inch range, 1 attack, 4+, 3+, rend -1, 2 damage. The Octar's Blade, which is a 3 inch range, 1 attack, 3+, 4+, -1, 1 damage. And the Octar's Tentacles, which is 3 inch range, 6 attacks, 4+, 4+, 1 damage. So it's the guy right in the catalog with the octopus buddy. Any special character, so you can't have more than one of these. He has the Catalog of Souls, add 1 to the bravery characteristic of friendly Deepkin units that are within 12 of this model. In addition, reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly Namarti units that are within 12 inches of this model, because he's cataloging the souls. He's writing down who has what souls. He's like the banker, because souls are like a currency in this society, which is kind of neat. And then Writhing Tentacles, roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this model, and a 5+ is negated because the octopus takes it instead. So probably a neat unit. Mostly he's great if you put him with the soul render and have him like with a big blob of your basic guys. They're not going to be shot at because of their battle trait ability, and they're going to buff up that unit Namarti. And you're going to see why that's amazing in a second. So now let's get on to the Akhellians. The Akhellians have 2 different units, 3 different units, and this is all the nobilities, the people with swords, and they're typically knights. They're the knights, the nobility of the Deepkin race. First, the Akhellian Alpexes. If we're using the Dark Eldar analogy here, these are your Venoms, I guess. So the sharks with guys riding them with guns in the back. And there's 2 different kinds of guns. They have a move of 12 inches. There's 8 wounds, 4+ save, bravery 6. You can take them in units of 1+. If you don't want to suffer from battle shock tests, just never take them outside of units of 1. I don't think there's a reason to. You would just always take them in units of 1. The 2 different gun choices are a Razor Shell Harpoon Launcher and a Rotarius Net Launcher. The Harpoon Launcher is 24 inch range, 3 shots, 3s and 3s, rend 0, damage 1. It's only going to do 3 damage. And the Net Launcher is 18 inch range, 3+, 3+, no rend, 3 flat damage. It's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other. I think you go with the Razor Shell Harpoon Launcher just because rolling more dice is more consistent. When you're rolling 1 die looking for 3s and 3s, you're going to get some damage with 3 dice versus maybe no, almost more likely to be no damage because there's still going to be saves involved. Melee weapons, there's barbed hooks and blades, which everyone's carrying. 1 inch range, 5 attacks, 3s and 4s, 1 damage, no rend. The Alpex is Ferocious Bite, which is 1 attack, 3+, 3+, -2 rend, and 3 flat damage, which is pretty good, but it's only 1 attack. And his Scythe Fins, which are 1 inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend -1, and 1 damage. So he's a bit better fighter than he's a shooter, but he can stand off and just put the odd wound on people. He flies, Bloodthirsty Predator. At the start of your charge phase, if this unit's within 12 enemy models that have been allocated any wounds, you can reroll charge rolls because he can smell the blood because he's a shark. Sharkman. I'll be honest, I'm not impressed with the Alpexes. I wish they were cooler. They just seem like they don't have a place. If you could whip them up, they do benefit from all the Akhellian stuff. So if you stick a big unit of them, but I don't know if you'd want to take a big unit of them and have them be next to the Akhellian King or Volturnus, he can make them a little bit better fighters. But they don't have a lot of attacks that, the 1 attack that does really well, I guess is okay. The rend -2 is nice and the flat 3 damage is nice. But the problem is you have to buy into Akhellian each time, or Alpex each time you want them to do that attack. And there's the Leviathan, or the Leviathan. Leviathan, it's not a Leviathan, it's Leviathan, which is the giant sea turtle. He is a monster. So this is the first monster so far on the list. We talk about some big guys. This is the only one with a monster stat line that degrades when he takes wounds. He has a basic movement of 12 inches, 16 wounds, 3+ save and bravery 7. He has a Razor Shell Harpoon Launcher, just like the Akhellian Alpex does, which is 3 shots, 3s and 3s, rend nothing and 1 damage. It's not really a great gun. He mostly just fights. He's got a Crushing Jaw, which is 1 attack. It's a 1 inch range, and it hits on a 2+, wins on a 2+, rend -1, d6 damage, but only 1 attack. Then he's got his massive Scythe Fins with a 2 inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend -1, and its damage is just flat 3. Twin-pronged spear, 1-inch range, 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, no rend, damage 2, which is what the crew are carrying. And razor shell harpoons, 1-inch range, 4 attacks, and then 3s and 3s, flat rend, no rend, and 1 damage. He does fly, which makes him super mobile, and he does also benefit from all the Akhellian keyword stuff, like from the heroes. Let him get rerolls and extra attacks and stuff if they use their command ability during high tide. But he's not really that interesting otherwise. He's mostly a melee monster. He has the Jaws of Death. Each time you make a hit roll of 6+ for the Leviathan's crushing jaw attack, it does 6 mortal wounds instead of his normal damage. That's pretty cool because it does d6 damage, which means it's random. If you just get a 6 to hit, it's only 1 attack though. So it's not going to come into play very often. 1 in 6 turns, basically, or 1 in 6 combat rounds. And the Void Drum, Idoneth Deepkin units are treated as being in cover while they're within 12 inches of any friendly Akhellian Leviathans. That's why you're buying them. It's the Blood Shield from the Bloodrack Shrine. Not the Bloodrack Shrine, the Blood Rack Medusa Shrine, something that does that. Whatever Daughter of Cain thing gives you the Blood Shield. It's that. And it's a 12-inch bubble, so he's a huge base, and you're talking about a 27-inch circle, basically, that's going to be giving your guys +1 save for no basic cost. He just has to show up to do it. As far as the Akhellian Leviathan goes, that's the reason I see to take him. Is you stick him behind a wall of knights, you stick him in front of a wall of knights to soak up damage, and everybody gets cover. And that includes him, because he is an Idoneth Deepkin unit, so he just comes with a 2+ save, or unless something ignores cover by himself. Then we have the 2 Akhellian Knight units. We have the Morsar Guard, and we have the Isharan Guards. The Morsar Guard, there's 2 versions here. There's like a defendy one and a fighty one. The fighty one is the Morsar. They have a 14-inch move, 4 wounds, 4+ save, bravery 6. They have a Volt Spear with 2-inch range, 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, no rend, 1 damage. There's no rend on any of these attacks, by the way, for these knights. They have 0 rend at all. You have the Fang Moras that they ride. They're Jaws, sorry, they're Maws, which are 1-inch range, 1 attack, 3s and 3s, d3 damage. And their Tail, which is 2-inch range, d3 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 damage. They're kind of okay. They fly, which is nice. And your Prince Volt Spear gets +1 attack, and you can reroll battle shock tests for this unit, and they include any standard bearers, and reroll charge rolls if they include any musicians. They have the Biovoltaic Blast. Once you're about at the start of the combat phase, you can say that the unit will unleash their Biovoltaic Blast. If you do so, roll 1 dice for each model in this unit. On a 3+, pick a unit within 3 inches of this unit, and that unit takes a mortal wound. If it's a 6, they take d3 mortal wounds. So 3 of them are going to roll 3d6. 3+, they do a mortal wound. If they roll 3 6s, they do 3d3 mortal wounds. So they are kind of cool because they're bombs. They charge up their spears with like the eel energy and then shock everybody to death at some point. But they're just kind of okay at fighting. Then there's the Isharan Guard, and this is the one that's a little bit more defensive. They have the same command group stuff as the Akhellian Morsar Guard. So 1 to the attacks for their Hell Sabers if you have a Prince. Reroll battle shock tests for standard bearers and reroll charge rolls for musicians. They also fly. They have 14-inch move, 4 wounds, 4+ save, and 6 bravery. Their Hell Saber has a 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s. Again, no rend, 1 damage. Fangmore is Fanged Maw, 1-inch range, 1 attack, 3s and 3s, d3 damage. And then finally Lashing Tail, 2-inch range, d3, 3s and 3s, 1 damage. So no rend on these guys. Their big bonus is Biovoltaic Barrier. Ignore the rend characteristic for attacks against this unit when they make save rolls, period. It's just always a 4+ save. In addition, their save characteristic is 3+ instead of 4 if they make a charge move. So 3+ save, they're near the turtle. They got a 3+ save base, no rend for cover. 2+ save, no rend when they charge. That's a pretty durable unit. I think of the 2 of them, the Isharan Guard probably is the winner, just based on sheer durability. Because you have no rend, so you're just looking to grind people to death and hold them in combat. And that looks like the play there. Is when you take the Isharan Guard, you've got a super durable unit with 12 wounds on a basic box of 3. And if they're near the turtle for plus cover, plus like all the other things that give cover, like the just low tide and stuff that does it too, they're not going anywhere fast, especially because they just flat out ignore rend. They can tank almost anybody because of that, unless it's mortal wounds. And now we're on to the Namarti. Now the Namarti are the soulless dudes, the cave fish people who are going to make up your battle line. There's the Thralls. They're always battle line. This is the only always battle line unit in the army, but they're really good. They have a 6+ move or 6-inch move, 1 wound, 5+ save, and bravery 6. The 5+ save doesn't look very impressive until you realize it's a 4+ during low tide. All the things that also give cover, plus potentially with artifacts and stuff to double down on a Mystic Shield for 2 units during turn 2. They're going to be 4+ save, maybe 3+ save if you want them to be, if you want to take a big unit. You're probably just going to take multiple small units instead, though. 1-inch range attack on the Landmary Blade. 1-inch range, 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, run -1, damage 1. Your basic guys are Sword Masters of Hoth with 2 attacks. That's crazy. 3s and 3s, run -1, 1 damage. But it gets better. Their Icon Bearer, it's a single model. He gets +1 attack, and that's it. He just rerolls battle shock tests by himself. So there's no command group. It's just the leader dude does everything by himself, which I think is really keen. And then special ability, Sweeping Blows. They get +1 attack against units when they target units with only 1 wound, and they get +1 damage when they target units with 4 wounds or more. Holy moly. So they become damage 2 when they fight monsters and anything with more than 4 wounds or knights, and they get 3 attacks base when they fight guys with 1 wound. And their battle line, they're so good. They're a little bit disposable because they're saves, but because of the amount of cover and wound shrugging that's potentially in the army, wow. And the fact that you can just bring them back with lanterns, they are going to blitz through stuff. They're a fantastic battle line unit as opposed to just fighting. Now, the Namarti Reavers, which are the shooting one, they become battle line only if you have your general be a wizard, I believe. Yeah, they're battle line if you have an Isharan hero. And your Idoneth Deepkin. So they're not base battle line, and they're just kind of okay. They move fast, they're your scouts. They have an 8-inch move, 1 wound, 5+ save, bravery 6, and they have a whisper bow, which is their gun. They have 2 different ways of firing it: aimed fire or storm fire. Aimed fire is the long range attack, 18-inch range, 1 attack, 4s and 4s, no rend, 1 damage. Or storm fire at 9-inch range when they're supporting troops from up close, 3 attacks, 4s and 4s, 1 damage. So 10 main, it shoots 30 times. And you can reroll rolls of 1 for a lot of the Isharan heroes that are going to be in there with their reroll aura effects. So while they're not amazing at sniping guys at long range, as a support unit, once the melee begins, they're pretty tasty when they start shooting up close. Their melee weapons are a Keening Blade, 1-inch range, 2 attacks, 3s and 4s, rend dash, damage 1. So not great in melee, but not terrible either. I mean, still 2 attacks hitting on 3s. That's going to do something. They get an Icon Bearer as well. You get +1 attacks for the Keening Blade, and they reroll battle shock tests just like the other one. And what's interesting is this is not a single box that makes 2 units. There's actually different boxes for both these, the Reavers and the Thralls. They have Swift Tide. I can reroll run rolls for this unit. Remember, that's going to tie in with all your Tides of Death stuff to be able to run and still shoot. And then Fluid Firing Style, that's how you have your 2 styles for your Whisper Bow. And that's the Namarti. And that is all the units in the army. We've gone all the way through to the end. So let's talk about some pitch battle profiles. And that'll be our finishing up of the actual Warscrolls for a minute. So the Thralls themselves are battle line. They come in min 10, max 30 units, and they are 140 per 10 or 360 discounted if you're going to take the full 30. And they are battle line all the time. You've got Volturnus, High King of the Deep. You can only have roll 1. 280 points. He's your leader, and he can only be included a single time. Versus the Akhellian King, who's 240 points. And you can have multiples of. So, again, unless you're going to take multiples of these guys, just take Volturnus. He's just better for 40 points. Extra wound, all the extra abilities that he gets, everything has bigger range. There's no reason not to, for the price of a Griffhound, basically just take him. You have your 2 Eidolons. The Mathline aspect of the Storm is 400 points, and he's a leader, but not a behemoth or a monster. And aspect of the Sea is 440 points and a leader. Then we have our Isharan Tidecaster, 100 points, leader. Isharan Soul Render, 100 points, leader. Isharan Soul Scry, 100 points, leader. And then Lotan, the special character with the octopus, he is 100 points and leader as well, but of course he's unique. You only have 1 of him. Then there's the Akhellian Alopex, which is the little crocodile, or the shark man. 1 to 4 of them, 100 points each. Sorry, 140 points each. Seems expensive for what he does. He's the only unit in the army I'm just not sold on. I understand the Leviathan. He's the only one I'm just I don't know. The 2 different knight units, the Akhellian Ishlayan Guard and the Morsar Guard. They're 3 to 12. No discount, so 140 for the Ishlayan Guard. They're even cheaper and no rend. And then 160 for the Morsar Guard that explode like bombs. It's just a no-brainer. The Isharan Guard are so much better for just going and killing things and grinding away forever. It's amazing how durable an elf army can be in this game. Because there's no toughness, it's just wounds. And then there's the Namarti Reavers. And again, and sorry, I should mention the Guard, the Akhellian Guard, are both going to be battle line if you have Akhellian heroes. So if as your general. So if Volturnus or an Akhellian king is your general, then those guys can become battle lines. You could make an army of just pure Namarti, pure knights, and it'd be fully legal in match play. And then finally the Namarti Reavers, which are the gun guys with the bows, 10 to 20, 140, no discount for big units, and battle line if an army has Idoneth Deepkin allegiance, and the general is an Isharan hero. So I'll do points for the Warscroll battalions afterwards. There's only 5 of them, so this should be pretty quick. The Gloomtide Shipwreck doesn't cost any points at all. It's min size, max size 1, because you're only going to get the one broken into 2, basically terrain features, and it's scenery. So let's jump on to the next bit, which will be the Warscroll battalions. All right, so let's talk Warscroll battalions. The 5 that exist, they're actually, for the most part, fairly easy to fill out, which is nice for an army that's just starting off like this. You have to have a big collection to use them. The first one's the Royal Council. It's an Akhellian king, a Tidecaster, and a Soul Scryer. 3 things you probably want to have. Now, Akhellian king is the keyword, not the unit. And that's important because Volturnus actually counts as being one. So all I have to do is add a Tidecaster and Soul Scryer to my collection. I'll be able to unlock this one. They get a new command ability, give them no respite. You can use this command ability in your hero phase if the Akhellian king from this battalion is your general, and the Isharan Tidecaster and Isharan Soul Scryer from your battalion are within 3 inches of him. If you do so, pick 3 friendly Idoneth Deepkin units that are wholly within 12 of the general and add 3 inches to their move characteristic of the unit until the next phase. That's kind of cool. It's a neat little benefit. If you're going to use those units anyway, as long as they're all deployed together in the first turn, you can throw everybody forward that are all in cover and get some extra movement. Then there's the Akhellian Core. It includes a Leviathan, 2 to 4 units of Akhellian Guard of either type, basically, so you can have either the knight types, and then 1 to 2 units of Alopexes. So I'd have to have an Alopex, a Leviathan, and 2 units of the Guard. Pulsing Rhythm of the Drums. Once per battle, you can reroll 1 hit, wound, save, run, or charge roll. Sorry, once per phase, rather, for 1 of the units of the battalion that's wholly within 12 of the Leviathan. So basically, the drums playing the Leviathan make them awesome. And you're going to keep them nearby him anyway because they want to be in cover. So it's a no-brainer they'll be in range. It just gives you a reroll for taking those units if you're going to take them anyway. Next up is the Namarti Core. This is your battle line stuff. So if you're going to go with the Fishmen, the Cave Fishmen as your army, you've got the Isharan Soul Render. You've got 2 to 6 units of Namarti Thralls and 2 to 4 units of Reavers. Their special rule is Soul Bond. If the Isharan Soul Render from this battalion uses their Lure Light ability on a Namarti in this battalion, the D3 roll is automatically a 3. There's no need to roll. So for your resurrections, because you get to resurrect these murder elves, you just automatically do 3 per turn and use the Soul Lantern, which is huge. And if you're going to be taking them as your battle line, I mean, the tax here is 2 units of Reavers. I don't know if I'd want to use 2 units of Reavers. And it also means that a Soul Lantern would need to be your army, or need to be your general, because that would make them battle line, so that you filled out all your battle line for the army. So, yeah, I don't know. You can risk it or you can gain it. I don't know if that one's worth it. Mostly because the Reavers seem like a tax. I don't think I'd have more than 1 unit. Then there's the Phalanx. This is the one which is made up of the other battalions. This is our 4th one here. It consists of a Royal Council, 2 to 4 Akhellian Cores, and 2 to 4 Namarti Cores. So you're going to have this is a huge game at this point. You're probably not going to see this one happen very often. Their abilities is Full Fury of the Storm. If your army has an Idoneth Deepkin allegiance and includes this battalion, then once per battle, at the start of the battle round, you can choose to use the High Tide ability from the Tides of Death table instead of what would normally be used. So you get 2 High Tides per game, basically, which is, I mean, neat. And then there's the Wacky Battalion, because every book has to have a Wacky Battalion. And this one's the Alliance of the Wooden Sea. And this is the one I'm going to build first, because this just ties perfectly with everything I've been working on for Age of Sigmar. And that's, you get Sylvaneth together with the fish folk. So it's 1 Tidecaster, which I was going to get anyway. 2 units of Akhellian Guard, which I was going to get anyway, because I like the Knights. 1 unit of Thralls, which I already have. 1 unit of Reavers. I was only going to get 1. And then 1 unit of Akhellian Alopexes. It's the 1 tax. I wish it was the Leviathan instead, because I'd buy that. I have to get at least 1 shark gun though. And then it's a Branch Witch, 2 units of Dryads, and a Trio of Ancient. Strength of the Ethersea. Units from this battalion have Tides of Death. That's awesome. So I get Tides of Death on my Branch Witch, my Dryads, and my Trio of Ancient, which is super handy. So basically, they're all going to get covered in the first turn and all the other Tides of Death stuff. Now, is this one strictly necessary? Do I have to take this? No, because I can just take them as allies and then use the Ionrack, what's it called? The Enclave rule, and I get it anyway. So, again, I could get it for free and have more than 400 points, basically, I guess is the reason to do it, because at this point I've got 2 units of Dryads, which is 200, a Branch Witch, which is 280, and an Ancient, I think it's 320. So we're getting 600 points of allies instead of 400 points of allies, but they're kind of picked for me, and they get the ability. Is it as good as just taking them with the Ionrack? I don't know. I can't decide. And let's talk points for battalions. Again, the only one I see is being used a whole lot is the Royal Court, just because it's a simple bunch of units you're probably going to take anyway, and it's just bonus moves. Alliance the Wooden Sea is 140 points. Yeah, no, I'm not. Probably not. The Akhellian Guard is 100. The Namarti Corps is 100. The Phalanx is 120, and the Royal Council is 140. So you're paying 100. You're paying an extra unit of Namarti Thralls to get +3 movement in the first turn if you deploy all your guys together. I don't know. I'm not super sold on any of these Warscroll battalions. They don't seem to be. They're not tickling my fancy, mostly because either the tax unit they have to take is too bad, or they're just too many points for the ability does. So, yeah, that's of all the rules. All the rules for most of these units are just amazing. It's like the pitch battle stuff is, or sorry, the pitch battle, the battle line guys, the Namarti Thralls and stuff are probably one of the coolest battle line units in the game, just for their raw damage output and their ability to come back when you combine them with other units. But the battalions, I don't know. I'm not into the battalions. they seem like they include dead units, so there's too many points for costs for what they do. Other than that, we're going to jump in and take a look at some of the the match play and no, narrative play, not match play. We just did match play. Look at the narrative play stuff for the scenarios stuff, the battle plans, and then we'll take a look at the last bit, which is going to be the Path to Glory. So as far as battle plans in the book go, you're going to be given 3 narrative battle plans to play. There's the Incoming Tide, which is pretty cool. You're emerging from the sea and attacking a village or attacking some place to harvest some souls. There's the Harvest, the actual attack on the village. So you've crushed your defenders, and now you're trying to actually steal all the souls. And then the Pursuit, where you get away. So it's really cool because narratively speaking, these 3 battle plans reflect how the Idoneth go to war. They show up, crush all the sentries, attack whatever it is they're trying to attack and steal the souls, and then they have to be harassed on their way out as they retreat back to the Whirlways? I think you want to say Webways. The Whirlway to get back to their Enclave. And then of course we have our Path to Glory campaign stuff. And what I'll talk about here real quick is just what kind of units you'd want to get if you wanted to start this army with the Path to Glory campaign. So your champions can be a Tidecaster, a Soul Scryer, or an Akhellian King, which is pretty cool. The King gets 3 units, and the other 2 get 4 units. And then your followers, for a single roll, you can have 10 Thralls or 10 Reavers. Your elite followers, which cost 2 or a single glory point and a roll, or you can get Morsar Guard, Isharan Guard, or an Alapex. And then the followers, you can have a Soul Render for 1, and for 3 rolls, or a roll and 2 glory points, you can start with a Leviathan. So if you wanted, you could just start with the Akhellian King and a Leviathan and be like, it's Turtle Man and the Sea Mare, and they go and do things together. You get your own follower rewards tables. You're on champion rewards tables too. And my favorite one is you roll double ones on the champion rewards. The Legacy of Slaanesh. You lose a glory point. In addition, your champion can't gain any further rewards for the rest of the campaign. Slaanesh finds your soul and starts sucking all your life force. We've got tons of battle plans here. There's undersea attackers, which I really like because you get to go and fight on a boat. There's actually like a boat attack, and it's neat because the territory is shaped like a ship. There's also a skirmish variant for it too, which is really nice. And that gives you some additional Path to Glory stuff. So you can Path to Glory the undersea attackers, or you can use the skirmish variant too for playing your skirmish games. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this. The rules review, of course, if you haven't watched my background synopsis, my Cole's notes for that Deepkin, you can click below to that video description and in the video description and go and check it out. And we'll see you in the future for more of this. You can also check out my On the Paint table today to check out some of the units I was sent. I got to check out the Eidolon of Mathland, Volturnus the High King of the Deep, and some of the Namarti Thralls, which I'm getting painted up. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. We'll bring you more rulebook reviews in the future. Until next time, I'm Ash. I'm Wargaming. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below to get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Deathray Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.